Well, hello there. We wanted to do this video so that we could give you some extra support in regards to how to complete the TAE PDD 401 knowledge assessment questions that you will find here on Moodle. And essentially, this is a video that's going to walk you through the questions, give you a little bit of extra explanation, just in case there's anything that you don't remember from the workshop or anything exactly that wasn't covered in the workshop. And this would be a video that you can watch in your own time, and you can pause and you can write and answers to the questions, and you can really use this as a great resource to support you through answering these questions from the first part of the TAE 22 program that you have enrolled in. So let's take a look at the first question that we've got here. And basically it says, access the ASQA website and review the information about the VET quality framework. Briefly outline the purpose of the framework and its components. Which two components will directly impact your role as a VET practitioner? Now, the really cool thing here is that we've actually given you the link. And if you click on this link here, VET quality framework, it's actually going to take you to the link that we've got just above here. And let's see. Yep. So we want to make sure that we go to this website. We read up a little bit about it. But basically, as it says on the screen, VET quality framework is comprised of the standards for RTOs, fit and proper person requirements, and it's got a bit of an explanation there. Financial viability risk assessment requirements if you're starting an RTO or you're continuing to run an RTO. Data provision requirements, as it says there, which sets out the requirements for what data must be provided and when. And then it's got the AQF, which is basically the framework of qualifications that are provided in Australia, the Certificate 1, all the way up to the PhD. So the second part of the question there, it says, if we come back to the question, which two components will directly impact your role as a VET practitioner? Now, highly likely, as you read through the list, there's going to be two that really stand out to me as I read it. Number one, the standards for RTOs, 2015, that's definitely going to impact you as a trainer. And then the second one that's probably going to impact you will be the AQF, the Australian Qualifications Framework. Okay, so definitely really important to understand what that is, the different levels and the different level expectations. Okay. And then the standards of RTOs, standards for our registered training organizations, that's going to have the 8 standards that RTOs must be compliant against, and the different areas that you as a trainer or assessor must remain compliant in as well. So hopefully that helps you understand the question and what it's looking for there. Okay, so let's move on to question 2. It says, access the standards for registered training organizations or the ASQA user guide for the standards. Review the standards and provide an outline of how each of the following will impact your role as a VET practitioner. So I will just quickly show you on Google how we would actually find those standards. So we can actually type in standards for RTOs 2015, and let me close that. And so let me just type it in again, standards for RTOs. Let's go with that. Okay, so actually let me type it into the search bar here, standards for RTOs 2015, and there we go. So we actually have the first one that comes up, standards for RTOs 2015, and you'll be able to easily find the link for that. And if you look through, like, it's got the hyperlinks there, so you can click on that and it'll open it up. Now, what you can do, let's just come back to the questions for a moment here, is go through this question item by item. So it says your qualifications competency. Okay, so this first part here, basically what the standards will tell you and what you can put in for your answer is, in order to teach a particular qualification, you yourself must have the qualification. Okay, so that's something you can note in there. You must also be doing professional development for that industry. You must also be undertaking current activities and being able to demonstrate currency, so to speak. And you must have relevant industry experience as well. Okay, so you can definitely pop those ideas in there. All right, current industry skills. As a trainer and assessor, you must be able to demonstrate that you've got current industry skills and current industry knowledge. All right, so you can put that idea in there. Providing learner support. So In regards to this, if you want to, you can certainly go to the standards, and in the search bar, if you know how to create the search bar, you can actually type in learner support. And you can read out which standard out of the 8 standards actually relates to providing learner support. Okay. So when you go to the standards, you can read through them and find which one relates to learner support. You can type in that RTOs are obligated to provide learner support, and you can read up on that a little bit. Maintaining skills and knowledge in training and assessment practice. Again, that relates back to your requirements to be a trainer assessor. You need to be able to demonstrate that you've got current skills and knowledge as part of the TAE and as part of your industry. Okay. Working under supervision in a training and / assessment role. Well, if you read through the assessment requirements and the training requirements in the standards, and you may even clever hack, you may even go into the search bar and type in working under supervision. And you may be able to find the words around working under supervision just by typing into the search bar, working under supervision. Okay. So if we come, yep, that question 2 there, basically it's just requiring you or requesting you to go through the standards and read them a little bit of detail, and you'll be able to find them just by going into Google and typing in standards for RTOs and doing a bit of research there. All right, so that is all good. So let's come back to this screen that we've got here. And now let's come back to the next question, which is question 3. What is the purpose of the AQF? Why is it important for vet practitioners to apply the AQF? Well, if we talk about the purpose, well, basically it says that the purpose is to define the expectations for each level of education within Australia. I mean, AQF stands for the Australian Qualifications Framework. So the purpose is basically to stipulate what the expectations are and how someone should be able to be trained, well, what level they should be trained to at each qualification, and essentially what should assess the performance look like. All right. So that's basically the purpose. Why is it important for vet practitioners to apply the AQF? Well, it's important for any vet practitioner to be writing assessments to the level, to be training people to the level, and making sure that you are never training too hard or too easy, or you are assessing too hard or too easy. And basically, well, the AQF is the standards that we train people to at each of the qualification levels. Okay, hopefully that makes sense there for you. And you can certainly Google AQF and, put AQF question mark and read up on the broad overview of what the AQF is as well. Okay. Coming down, we got question 4 here. It says, applying the AQF levels 1, 3, 5, describe the skill and knowledge that might apply to someone in an office administration role. Think about dealing with customers and complaints, maintaining office resources, dealing with suppliers. All right. So just to give you a broad overview, we could generally say that AQF level 1 is very simply do the task and regurgitate the information. So we could say AQF level 1 would be making, making meeting minutes. It could be taking very basic orders over the telephone. It could be receiving deliveries at a shop or at a business, those kind of things, right? Very, very basic tasks. AQF level 3 is going to be more so problem solving, more so troubleshooting issues. So yes, as it states in there, taking customer complaints and maintaining resources, maybe putting in new orders if people run out of supplies. AQF level 3 is also, let's say, overseeing staff members, not training them, but overseeing them. Another one could be definitely taking customer orders over the telephone, dealing with refunds, dealing with complaints, those kind of things, right? Level 3 is all about troubleshooting. Level 5 is diploma level, and that's where we're looking to define and create policies, procedures, and we are AQF level 5. We're really focused on the organization as a whole. So we could actually be, creating policies, procedures, and we're maybe leading staff meetings. Maybe we are actually negotiating contracts with other suppliers. Okay. So just think about level 1, regurgitate and do the thing. Level 3 is troubleshooting, and level 5 is really focused on managing the organization as a whole, if that makes sense, and doing tasks that are more managerial focused. Question 5, here it says, give a brief overview of some of the areas of responsibility of the following organizations in VET education. So Department of Employment and Workplace Relations, highly recommend. Just go to Google and type in DEWA and see what comes up, or type in Department of Employment and Workplace Relationship, ? Okay. Now, National Center for Vocational Education Research, again, go to Google and type in NCVER and put in a question mark and see what comes up. But I will tell you now, NCVER basically are the organizations responsible for gathering data and compiling statistics that the government then use to decide what areas of education they will provide funding towards. All right. So NCVER basically gather all the research, gather all the data, and compile how many people are enrolled in particular courses, where the skill shortages may be, that kind of information. All right, state and territory training authorities. So there are two that you're going to come across. One is called TAC, which is Training Accreditation Council, which are basically the state regulator for Western Australia. Okay, and you can certainly Google TAC if you want to, Training Accreditation Council, and their job is to basically audit and regulate RTOs in Western Australia. The other one that you're going to come across is the one in Victoria, which is VRQA, which is Victorian, yeah, can't remember actually, but it's basically VRQA, and they are the state regulator for Victoria, and they audit and regulate RTOs in Victoria. Okay, so that's making sure that the RTOs in Victoria are compliant. Okay, so there's enough information for you to go with for that one. Vocational Education Training Regulators. So here, we have ASQA, and they are the national body for auditing and regulating RTOs in Australia. Okay, and National Register of VET, again, this is going to be training.gov.au, and also we could say ASQA here as well. All right, then training package developers, well, you could say these are the organizations that are responsible for developing training packages. And in here, you could say there are 10 job skill councils, and you could say that training packages are updated every 3 to 5 years. Okay, that's kind of the information that you can put in there. Job and Skills Australia, in here again, you could repeat the same information. You could say there are 10 bodies that are responsible for developing training packages, and they meet regularly, and their job is to research what training is required and putting together relevant training for those particular industries. Okay, vet peak bodies, in here you could say these are any organizations or any key stakeholders that would have an influence or a say on training package development, or essentially how the industry runs overall. All right, so you got vet peak bodies, and we're not looking for anything too specific here, but you could just make a generalized statement. Okay. Now, I will be completely honest and say that the reason that I'm being a little bit vague around some of these places here is that the industry is in a sense in transition in some of these areas. So feel free to make broad overarching statements if you need to. All right. So let's head to question 6 here. Question 6, it says, as a vet practitioner, you will need to apply a range of organizational policies and procedures, as well as legislation that impacts students. Provide a definition for each of the following and how it relates to your role in vet. All right. So we got duty of care. So basically, if you were answering this question here, you can go to Google and type in duty of care, ? See what comes up, drop a definition into that box there, and then you could basically mention how it will apply to you, which in this case will probably be the situation of, if I am training or assessing someone, I need to make sure that I don't put them in harm's way or unnecessary risk. All right, so that could be a way that you handle that. Continuous improvement, again, go to Google, type in continuous improvement, question mark, see what comes up, drop a definition in here, and you could then say something to the effect of, if I am working at a RTO, I need to write down new ideas for continuous improvement and supply those to the necessary people so that practices are always being improved and updated. Okay. Management of student records. Again, you could think about, well, in an RTO, probably student records need to be kept confidential, and student records need to be kept in a safe and secure manner. And you could say, in an RTO, an example of this could be student records are backed up regularly, and also there is a password that's applied to records so that let's say that third parties cannot access those student records without permission. Okay. Privacy and confidentiality, very similar. You could go to Google, type in privacy confidentiality -RTOs, see what comes up. But generally what we're going to say in here is that an RTO will have a policy around privacy and confidentiality saying only students can have access to their results or their information, and they must sign a waiver if they want to allow anyone else to access their materials, okay, or their results. Anti-discrimination, again, you can go to Google and type in anti-discrimination -RTOs, question mark, see what comes up. But essentially, you can imagine that an RTO is going to have a policy such as in the assessment process that we use, we aim to follow an anti-discrimination policy, and we make sure our assessors all follow the code of conduct, which stipulates all students must be treated fairly. Okay. Consumer protection, again, you can go to Google, type in consumer protection, RTOs, question mark, all right? But basically, consumer protection in this context is all about students being, students or potential students being protected with their money when they enroll, and making sure that the money is treated properly. And also all students, and so they're able to request a refund in appropriate times and things like that. But also all the students and potential students have all the required information they need before they enroll, and they are told everything they need to be told. Okay. Copyright and plagiarism. Well, this is all about trainers and assessors, or RTOs in general, maybe stealing information or assessments from other RTOs. Never a good thing. And potentially it's also about students plagiarizing other students' material. So just think about a policy that may relate to that. And it could be the case that the policy states something like, whenever you are submitting your work, you must sign a student declaration. Okay. Child safe requirements. You could, as an RTO, have a stipulation that anyone that works with students that are under the age of 18 or 16, every trainer assessor must have a blue card. Okay, so that could be part of that. Internal quality audits and assessment / validation. So you will generally find that most RTOs are going to have a policy that they're going to do a internal audit generally every 2 or 3 years, and assessment validation generally happens every 12 months, and in some cases every 6 months. Okay, so you could drop that in there as a comment, and you could say RTOs generally do internal audits this often and assessment validations this often. Okay. So coming down, question 7 here, it says, access the assessor code of practice and summarize your legal and ethical responsibilities as a VET practitioner. And essentially what you can do is you can come to this hyperlink that we've got there, and you can read through the assessor code of practice here that starts at 4.1. And what you can actually do is you can go and read through and go, okay, is this a ethical item, or is this a legal item? Is it a legal item or an ethical item? So for example, if we take a look at this one here, the rights of candidates are protected during and after the assessment process. We could actually say that that is probably a legal item. And so you could copy and paste that in there. And let me just get rid of that there. And let me do some proper copying and pasting. Let me drop some copying and pasting in there. So rights of candidates are protected during and after the assessment. Okay, so we could drop that in there, and we could say that one is a legal one. But if we come over here, we could actually look through here, and we could say that assessment decision based on available evidence. Let's find. Okay, cool. So potential forms of conflict of interest. All right. So conflict of interest. Well, that would possibly be more of an ethical one. Okay, so we could drop that one in there. All right, so what you're going to do is you're going to read through the code of practice there and find which one is which, and then drop them in there. Okay. And so yeah, it's not too hard. And the thing is, it's your decision on your interpretation. Okay. There are some ones that are going to fall into one category more so than the other, but if you accidentally put the wrong one in the wrong category, that's okay, because we know that, yes, in some cases they could fall into both categories for sure. Okay, so coming down, question 8, the Australian vocational education system is competency-based training and assessment. Briefly describe the characteristics of the Australian competency-based training and assessment system. So if it was me, I'd be going to Google and I would type in competency-based assessment. Okay, put a question mark, see what comes up, and you're going to find a plethora of information regarding CBA, competency-based assessment, and competency-based training. So in essence, all it means is that you are training people or assessing people up to a standard and ticking them off as either competent or not yet competent, as having met or not met the required standard for the industry. Okay, so if you go to Google and type in CBA or CBT, you're going to find a lot of information and give you some definitions that you can drop in here as well. Okay, so heading on to question 9 here, it says provide an example to explain the difference between criterion reference and norm reference assessment. So basically what this means is drop in an example of when you have heard or seen or read about competency-based assessment. So you could use something related to your industry. So if you're working in the driving forklifts world, you could say, all right, in our world, we have a standard that a student or a candidate must be able to drive a forklift to this particular standard, and they must be able to do it this number of times. Okay, and a person is either competent at that task or they're not yet competent. Norm reference is more so when we're looking at high school or we are grading performance. So if we said that a student or a candidate is doing it to a particular performance level, like A+, B-, C, all of those kind of performance ranking, so to speak, when a student or an audience member is compared against somebody else, or they have kind of a degree of performance that they meet, well, that's when we're looking at norm referenced assessment. All right, norm referenced. So anytime that someone is compared against someone else, so we could think about the tertiary world in university. You may have what do they use in tertiary? They use high distinction, pass, credit, those kind of criteria. Okay, so you can think about an example from tertiary world or university world and drop that in there. Okay, let's check out the next bunch of questions here. So question 10, it says scenario, is the person competent or not yet competent? You have reviewed all assessment submissions from a candidate and found that some of the answers to the knowledge questions are incomplete and 2 answers are incorrect. However, all practical tasks have been finished and meet the required standard. Provide a brief explanation to justify your answer. Well, it's it's a pretty clear-cut answer. The student is not yet competent. I mean, it is what it is. If they haven't completed all the knowledge questions, then we can't say that they are complete in the unit. And as we all know, with the unit of competency, a student is going to be assessed on the knowledge evidence, they're going to be assessed on the performance evidence, and they're going to be assessed on the performance criteria. So In this case, yes, the practicals are done, fantastic. But if the knowledge evidence questions are not complete, well, the student's not yet competent. And in here, we could even say that a student's answers must meet the rules of evidence. And we could say that a student's answers, every answer must be valid, it must be authentic, it must be current, and it must be sufficient. So we could say that essentially, their evidence and their competency, we can't yet prove it because they haven't demonstrated satisfactory performance in the knowledge areas and they're not complete. Okay. So if you're looking to answer this question, we could say, the practical performance is complete and is satisfactory, but the student is not yet competent in the knowledge areas because the answers by the students are not yet satisfactory as they have not met all of the criteria for a good answer, which is the answers are not valid, authentic, and current and sufficient. Okay. So on that note, basically that addresses question 10 there. The student is not yet competent. Okay. So coming down, we got question 11. What is inclusive practice and how can you ensure that you apply this to your own VET practice? So if we just think about if we are delivering training to a wide variety of audiences or audience members within a group, how can we make sure that everybody is included? And so in this question, you could talk about respecting different cultural backgrounds. You could talk about, okay, if you had a particular cultural group of members in your group, how could you make sure that they felt included? You could provide an example around that. You could make a comment such as making sure that all learners are included in all activities, a bit of an obvious one there, but you could do practical activities and make sure everybody's involved. You could put people in pairs and small groups, and that'll make sure that everybody is involved. You could also respect cultural differences and bring that to light. And you could talk about creating a safe learning environment. And you could even Google how to create safe learning environments, right? You could make sure that if there was anyone with a disability, that they felt included and as part of the group. You could talk about maybe making reasonable adjustments. So if somebody couldn't come along to the training and they could only log in online, well, you could also have a situation where you're delivering half to face-to-face and then a couple of students online. That could work as well. But we're just looking here at how can we make sure that nobody's left behind, nobody's left out, and if there's any circumstances where somebody is how do we put this, of a different nationality or of a different language group or ethnic base or even religion, how do we make sure that we include them? Okay, so you could also pop in a comment around, all right, if you've got people that need to attend prayer events, you could say add in extra breaks for those people that need to do that. Okay, so hopefully that gives you enough prompters there to tackle question 11. Coming down, question 12, how can you find out about the diverse needs of any learner cohort? Consider what documents may exist or who you could talk to help you with this information. So you could talk to, for example, staff members, supervisors, and you could get some information about each of the learners. You could ask some questions about, okay, do they have any language literacy and numeracy issues? What are their motivation levels? What are their learning styles? Those kind of things. You could also look at enrollment forms, and if people have disclosed any information about any particular needs that they have, you can certainly check out enrollment forms. You could look at past training history or even past qualifications that people have got to give you a sense of what kind of training have they done in the past. You could also talk to the students directly and see what they mention and see if they divulge any information at all. You could talk to HR departments. You could talk to subject matter experts. They're certainly going to give you some extra information as well. Okay. So that should give you enough information there for question 12. Question 13, it says, what are the 4 dimensions of competency and how you incorporate these into each of your training sessions? List each of the 4, describe their purpose and how you will include each in their training session. So Just to give you the punchline, there are 4 dimensions of competency. Number 1 is task skills. Task skills. Next one, number 2 is task management skills. Task management skills. Number 3 is contingency management skills. Contingency management skills. And number 4 is job role / environment. Job role / environment. Okay. Now you can certainly go to Google and type in dimensions of competency, ? Push enter, see what comes up, and you should get those 4. But essentially, the first one here, task skills. The purpose is basically, or the way that it shows up, or the meaning of it. Task skills is the measurement of the ability to perform the task or to complete the task. Okay. Incorporate into training session by, well, has specific tasks that you are training people towards and against. Okay. So the second one is task management skills. Task management skills. And that is all about preparing to do the task and doing the task while other things are going on. All right. So it's kind of like multitasking, or being able to manage the task and other situations going on, right? So if we're talking about the forklift, well, the task skill would be driving the forklift, right? Task management skill would be able to drive the forklift around different objects and maybe able to navigate different situations in the factory. Okay. Incorporating into training, well, we would have a portion around training people to do the pre-start, check on the forklift, make sure everything's working, and drive it in various scenarios and situations. Next, number 3 is contingency management. Contingency management is all about what to do when things go wrong. What to do when things go wrong. So number 3, contingency management purpose, would be all about making sure that someone knows various strategies on how to handle situations when they go wrong, or how to troubleshoot, so to speak. Incorporating into training by, well, setting up situations where things go wrong and teaching people what to do when those things go wrong. Okay. Number 4 is job role or environment. Job role or environment. The purpose of that would be making sure that a learner can do the task or do the thing in multiple different environments. And how do we incorporate that in training? Well, basically, we make sure that we train them to do the task inside and outside, or in multiple different environments that would be appropriate to the context that we are training them in. So for example, job role environments for CPR, we could say, okay, we're going to train and assess them to do CPR inside a house, maybe outside by the pool, or another one could be at a shopping center, just changing up the environment. Okay. So those are the 4 dimensions of competency. We've got task skills, task management skills. Number 3 is contingency management skills, and last of all, job role or environment. All right, so coming down, we got number 14. It says foundation skills in a unit of competency, identify the core skills, digital literacy skills, and employability skills for a required unit of competency. Provide a brief outline of each of the frameworks and support resources provided to identify and measure the foundation skills of units of competency. Okay, so essentially what you can do is you can go to Google and type in ACSF ? All right, and see what comes up. Basically, the Australian Core Skills Framework lays out the 5 core skills of learning, reading, writing, oral communication, and numeracy that form the basis for language literacy and numeracy in Australia. Okay. And these levels go from level 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, with 5 being the highest. All right. So level 1, basic, and level 5 is the highest. So Australian Core Skills Framework relates to language literacy and numeracy, reading, writing, and communication as a whole. Okay, digital literacy skills framework. Well, again, you can go to Google and type in digital literacy skills framework, ? See what comes up. But essentially, in summary, it's a framework that lays out the levels that a student or a human or an audience member could be at in regards to using a computer. Okay, and I believe if you look through the framework, I think it has levels 1, 2, and 3, possibly 4, but you can do your own research and check that out. Okay, core skills for work. You can certainly type in into Google core skills for work question mark, see what comes up. But essentially, this looks at, as the name states, what are the core functions or abilities that a candidate or someone that's going through through our qualification in the vet sector would need in order to be able to work effectively. Okay, so you can definitely go to Google, type in core skills for work, and see what comes up. Okay. So if we come down, we've got question 15 here. It says training packages include a range of endorsed and non-endorsed components. For each of the component, listed describe its purpose. Okay, so this one, you can go to Google and highly recommend that you type in endorsed components of a training package question mark and see what comes up. And then you will find qualification framework, unit competency assessment, requirements, and credit arrangements. Then do another search on Google and type in non-endorsed components of training package question mark and see what comes up. Okay, because guaranteed those two trigger words of endorsed components and non-endorsed components, you're going to find a lot of information out there on Google about each of those items. Okay, and that should give you enough to be able to answer question 15 there. Okay, so coming down to question 16, it says provide a list of the roles common to vocational education and outline the responsibilities of each role. Okay, so we got role and then description. So some of the roles that come to mind could be an admin person in an RTO. All right, and their description is basically to take enrollments and communicate with students. Another role could be a compliance officer description. It could be someone that is responsible for the documentation within an RTO, someone that's responsible for the policies and procedures of the RTO. It could be a trainer, an assessor role. So let's go with role trainer description. It could be someone that's responsible for delivering training online or offline to groups. Okay. Another one could be assessor. An assessor is responsible for conducting assessments with students, and that could be either online or face-to-face. Okay. Another role could be an instructional designer, and a description, somebody that develops assessments or learning resources, learning materials. Okay. So there's a couple of roles, and you can drop in the descriptions as I've given them there, or even as other words come to mind as you think about those different roles. Question 17, list and briefly describe how feedback from learners can improve quality of vet training and assessment. So with this one, have a think about a couple of examples that come to mind. So maybe as a trainer or as a future trainer, you could imagine receiving different types of feedback. So in here, you could say, if a learner had feedback about a trainer to say that they spoke too quickly, the trainer could adjust their delivery. If a learner had feedback around the instructions on an assessment item, well, the RTO could note that feedback and then make changes to the assessment instructions going forward, so there was more clarity. All right, so there's a couple of examples that you could use there, and you can certainly think of other examples as well that come to mind and drop them in there. So let's head to the next page, and question 18 here, provided below is a job description of vocational educator. Apply this to your own position description and complete the blanks below. All right, so what digital skills will be required? So you can read through here or through the ad and see what kind of digital literacy skills you think would be required. So what kind of things would be required to be done on a computer, okay? Anything on the position description that you feel you can't do, all right? This question is basically just looking to elicit any levels of self-awareness. And so in here, you could say, no, I feel confident doing all of the above because, all right, you could put in a reason, or you could say, no, I can see a couple of items that I can't actually have confidence around, which would be doing X, Y, Z, X, Y, Z, X, Y, Z. But your answer is going to be very personalized. It's going to be all about you. My request, and the assessor is going to request that you don't just put yes or no, that you definitely actually put in a reason and explain your answer there. Next one, who could you discuss your suitability for this role with? All right. So this could be your current supervisor or a mentor or a coach, or even the organization who posted this ad. You can certainly call them up if you wanted to, for sure. For sure. Awesome. So that is question 18 there, folks. That is the last question in the first unit of the TAE 22 program. And hopefully this video has been able to help you understand the questions and how to approach them. And just know that Google is your best friend. And it all comes back to, yes, we've got the textbook there. You can definitely check that out. And Google and most other search engines, if you drop in keyword searches and question mark, you're going to find all the answers that you need. But if you've got any questions at all as you go through these questions, don't hesitate to reach out to your trainer or your assessor for extra support as you go through them. So on that note, thanks for watching the video, and we will see you online. And don't forget to also post any of the questions that you may have into the forum as well. And we will endeavor to get back to you as quick as we can. Thanks for watching the video, folks, and we will see you online.